It's Kaya again. I'm back again. I think this is finally the last part of these files that I don't have to record anymore after today. I'm finally done. And then I'm gonna make another video, last video, and kind of talk to you guys. I don't know honestly know when I'm gonna be back with this technology stuff. I don't know. So let's just get started. Let's just get into this, and I'll tell you guys the rest of what else is going on in the video. Sorry, I've not gotten to you guys' comments, but I'm gonna try to today. We should have time. So let's get started. Okay, so this is definitely the other parts of the memories. Some of these memories, when they come back to me, there will be like bits and pieces of it. So the other part of this memory, actually, that I'm going to be telling you about was actually the part where I was raped and taken to the warehouse with those stimulations, also with the like future LA and the like this like Japanese men I met, and I was like speaking Japanese to them and stuff like that. So yeah, let's get started. Okay. So this is part 8, I believe. It could be part 8 or 9 of this. Sorry, I'm not sure, but let's just get started anyways. It's on the title, so yeah, you'll see it in the title. By the way, if you want to see the first part, go to my lives. You'll see part 1. Go through my videos. You'll see all the way to the last part, which is going to be this part, which I think I'll be able to get the rest of this all in. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so I was tortured in a lab. So there's like a war stimulation. These memories will always be ingrained deep in my subconscious mind. I have times where I forget some parts, some details, like I said, and they come back. I'm glad these memories came back, and I'll keep adding as the memories resurface if I am able to get back on a piece of technology. But this is most of all of the memories that I have. But if there's anything else I forget later on, I'll add it. Okay, so this specific day I was abducted, and I remember being on the same table as always in front of this MRI looking like machine, like, the tube with it looked just like an MRI. I had things hooked in my brain, my head, and usually they would blindfold me kind of in a way it seemed like so I could not see. Someone would always be standing there, and this was usually this brown reptilian, whatever. I remember suddenly being put into another world where it felt so real. I could see and feel pretty much, but sometimes you couldn't feel, like when I walked into the Walmart and there was a whole nuke blast just incinerated all of us. I remember suddenly being put. Oh, wait, sorry. I actually read that book. Sorry, I was on the next part. My bad. Oops. Okay. In the simulation, I ended up suddenly being in a forest, the woods, the mountains. Could have been the mountains anywhere. I saw pine tree, aspen trees. Could have been anywhere. I saw a girl named Janicia that I worked with at the movie theater. I was working at Cinemark in like Playa del Rey at the time, and I remember seeing her. She was dressed in all black. She had a big ass gun, like huge, right? And she smiled at me and we waved to each other. And there were other people standing with her. They had the same outfits. And it was clear to me that this was maybe something. I don't know if this was like training or what this was, but something like that. I looked down and I had a big ass gun actually in my hands too. Okay, so my mother and sister were with me. I don't remember if they had guns, but I had a gun. These were rifles, like huge black guns, big ones, like military, type guns, or big rifles. So the next thing I know, I didn't see Janicia anymore, and these men appeared. These men were Middle Eastern, possibly Arab. I don't remember if they had red wraps upon their heads, like the red, kind of like, I think, the Prince of Arabia, but they ended up yelling something in Arabic or like whatever language. They definitely were Middle Eastern, somewhere in the Middle East. I don't know where, but they had big guns too. And it was clear to me now that they were chasing us, and this was war. This was what this was. We all started to run away from these men. I remember hearing a loud shot. I turned around and looked back, and I saw my mother was shot. I ran back and I cried. I tried to see if she was okay. Next thing I know, in real life, I'm suddenly shocked. Like, my brain is shocked. I couldn't even believe it. I could feel pain through my body. Like, my brain actually was literally shocked. I could feel pain through my body, through my head. And then the brown reptilian saying, no, no, no. Like, he started yelling, no, no, no. And he was really mad. He basically was telling me I did everything wrong during the stimulation. I did the test wrong. I wasn't supposed to go back to my mother. What I did was wrong. I was supposed to go back to my mother or sister when they were shot. So basically, the stimulation now restarted. The whole thing restarted on this like screen or whatever my brain was attached to, whatever this was. Because I remember with this MRI looking machine, there would always be like a screen that was on top of that, and then a screen that the brown reptile had or John had, which was really weird. It was like just a screen, it's some kind of screen thing. So um anyways, the simulation restarted, like I said. The men were chasing us again. We were running towards this mountainside that was going up in elevation. And at one point, I think I remember seeing like a huge UFO, like flying saucer that was coming in the distance, like a circular disc. I remember hearing my mother being shot again. I had to let go of feelings and like not worry about anything but to keep running, I felt. So I just kept on running. And I thought I was doing the test right, but I guess not. So he ended up yelling again, shocking me again, and not even making sense on what I did wrong. Or this was like basically torture. I was actually electrocuted, and they are doing the same exact thing to me every single day remotely through this technology that they're using. Every single day I'm being tortured. I'm being caused headaches to where I'm not really eating much food because of all the pain that I'm being caused. I have so much hair that I lose every single day. My hair is breaking off. They have been burning my hair, actually burning it. And that's what this has really been done to me. I remember losing a lot of hair through many of these abductions, like the next morning and stuff like that. And yeah. So dolphins were another thing used, like I said, during these tests to like calm me down. Like they would put these images of dolphins together. I guess that was kind of like, in a way, they were trying to have some kind of empathy about hurting me or trying to distract me from what they were, but they had no care for the pain or damage they had caused me. Permanently no care at all. Okay. So during these abductions, there was Indians and Africans during abductions and like black magic. There was like okay, I just had a scary. Ooh, this person looks so. I don't think this was even a human that actually just walked by. There's actually a lot of these things that stalk me around, and they are in actual they're in actual reptilian form. Like, yeah, this is like wow. Okay, but anyways, I'm not even gonna focus on that. But yeah, yeah, it was like it's just kind of like just so close. Woo, like something's going on with like the teeth or like that. It was weird. But anyways, besides that, so one of the many things I realize is that these aliens do magic. They have a lot of them actually that will monitor me, and they will come down here and look and appear to look human, but they really are not. One of the things that you'll notice in with a reptilian is you will see, usually on their face, you'll see several brown spots. You'll see little types of like brown, but they are like a different, it's like the kind of, they call them age spots, but it's really like some of it's really reptilian features. But anyways, back to this experience. So the Archon reptilians specifically told me they do black magic, and they had been doing it on me, on my food and on everything. They told me that that's how I guess they do a lot of this, is through a lot of black magic. This experience was actually one of the many few things I saw when I died on the table delivering a baby. So this is when I actually had was plunged in to these stimulations, into this like underworld type of stimulation, with the last one with basically the shit city, shit on the streets, and some men like almost breaking in and raping me and stuff like that, and like whatever, the future Los Angeles type of thing. So this was like basically where this brown reptile kept, like I said, he kept telling me he was going to show me where I was going if I continued to follow the Bible and I continue to believe in a God or a Jesus. He had told me that this was not God and those were of the devil. And then I forgot to say, the brown reptile, he did actually tell me he was God himself, and also the dragon had told me he was God too. Yeah, so this was back to this with the shit city and the Japanese man, whatever meeting. So when I first died, I ended up being brought into some kind of purple room. It seemed to have a glowing dark purple hue or light. Like it was just a dark room. It had like a circular purple type of light, and there was a man from India there. We were looking on the screen, and you could see that this was like actually in India. It seemed to be like a town building or like a city or something like that. You could see a pale Indian woman, and she was doing something to food, like doing something and stuff. I don't know how I was being used, but I saw the Indian man. He was like moving his hands in the beginning, like telling me stuff I needed to do with my psychic abilities while we were like looking at all this stuff going on this screen. I honestly was freaking out because I figured I was dead. I thought I was dead. I did not want to be here. I felt uncomfortable. I kept being shown different images of these people in India, and it seemed to be like something was involved with some kind of crime involving poisons and magic. Like I said, food, something involving like things were being tampered with on this screen that we were like looking at, like what people were doing. Like it was like we were remote viewing what I think these maybe were witches that were doing this. I have no idea. But anyways, I screamed that I wanted to leave. I just felt really uncomfortable. I didn't know what was going on. I was also afraid that since I died, and then suddenly I was plunged somewhere else because I guess I was so uncomfortable about being in this room or whatever this was. So now I suddenly was somewhere else. This room was glowing red. It was glowing yellow and orange with like lights from torches. It was kind of like a wooden type of room. I saw fire and I saw people dancing, specifically a man with very dark skin who I later recognized as David, a man my mother was dating. He was from Atlanta. David had some kind of rain shaker in his hand, like this, like, like African music was playing, some type of African tribal stick or something, or maybe it was a rain shaker. He was dancing in tribal fashion and he had his face like with face painting and tribal garb. And I thought this was a better place. And I thought that this is where I was supposed to be. I thought I was like African. I wasn't sure of my heritage, but I felt comfortable. He began talking to me and I thought like, oh, okay, well, this is, like where I'm supposed to be. Like this is like tribe, like culture or something. I don't know what it is, but I like I said, I wasn't, something just changed so fast. Like he was talking to me and he was nice to me. It was like other African men with him or something like that. The music stopped all of a sudden. He then like ended up pushing me down with the other men and trying to rape me anally. And I screamed and yelled for help. Suddenly I was switched to another room, stimulation or whichever before they could rape me. I think this was the point that I ended up with the Japanese men and speaking to them. So I was part of that. Okay, the next section was food falls from the sky during this war. So many of the stimulations when I was hooked to these computers was during the time that I was usually just finished giving birth to these half alien babies. I noticed that each time I would be instantly in this desert running and fighting. The stimulation was shown to me many times, running towards a large mountain, a huge desert, and a big tree in the middle of this desert. I remember during the stimulation, young Pharaoh was with me like usual. There would always be so much going on at once, just so overwhelming, all the action. It would be constantly fighting, having to run and fight these demons. I remember that the food would fall from the sky, like certain things would fly through the sky to help on certain days or it seems certain times. I remember it being so hot and so thirsty, but it was like my body was being powered for me. I remember when I needed water to drink, it would just fall from the sky. Like it would just come, just boom, like it was just falling from the sky for me, which was really interesting. Hold on, I'm getting a sip of water. Speaking of water, anyways. So the interesting thing was it had to actually do with the actual water I drunk in real life. Pretty much young Pharaoh let me know because young Pharaoh was with me. He was with me during most of all these simulations. So I only got as much water as I drank in my living life. Then things got really crazy. I was hungry once we kept running through the desert. We were fighting these like reptilians, whatever we just bear type of desert, this desert bear place, bear like landscape. And so I was hungry, food starts falling down in the sky in its real form, actually. I remember a whole pig falling and I could not eat that. Young Pharaoh had said that had to do me eating pork, like whatever. So it's like the whole pig fell. I couldn't eat that. Then I remember a whole fish falling and it was like I could not eat that either. I think it was like a fish called Opa that I ate some of that in California. It was called Opa. It's like a really big fish or something like that. But basically what happened, young Pharaoh said it had to do with like me eating plants and stuff. So like if it was a banana, like a banana would come down, like fruit and stuff like that would come down, but like other stuff, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Later on, once we finally defeated the reptilians and got to the top of the mountain and I was in front of the dragon, once this dragon was in front of me, this huge dragon like appeared in front of me, then I remember going into labor and something happened where these wings like came on my back and I could fly. I kind of remember flying and then something happened where like I couldn't fly or something got messed up. And then they told me it had to do with a steak I had, some red meat that I ate recently or something like that. Young Pharaoh began speaking to me in this desert during the stimulation. I think this was after the stimulation. And he told me I should never eat seeds or nuts. I was eating a lot of sunflower seeds, these like Dakota style honey roasted sunflower seeds. They're so good. Like, oh my God, it's so hard because if I got them, I would still eat them. They're so good. Yeah, so I just like eat those. I think it messed things up a lot, like with me being able to fight and do what needed to be accomplished or something like that. So he said we never ate seeds ever because they lodge into the intestines forever. And I remember a lot within my past life, our diet, actually, we ate no seeds. There were a lot of plants we did not eat. We did not eat nightshades. We didn't eat tomatoes, peppers, potatoes. We ate raw meat. I remember us eating plants, like we would have salad and stuff, like little bits of plants and stuff. Like we would have certain plants that we would eat. I remember us eating raw meat, like we would hunt and then we would eat it right out of the like animal. I also do remember like we invented cooking and then we started to like cook some meat. I remember us cooking clams one day. We like during some famine time, we got some clams and we like cooked them over the fire. So that's what I remember. Okay, the next section is giving water to men lost in the desert in Mexico, awakened from the rest as dead. So this memory actually goes back to something that I remember that occurred years when I was awakened from the dead. This white room that I had been held in for years upon years. I remember when I died in my second past life, I was so devastated. I believe that past life I may have lived in the plains of like Colorado or Oklahoma or somewhere else. I remember these trees and I remember being stabbed. The interesting thing is the face I remember stabbing me in the field was John. Actually was that, and there was another man standing next to him. And the interesting thing is like when I look at like Denver, like Cherry Creek State Park, and like when I see these trees, they're so familiar to me. They're really familiar. I remember that in going through this memory, it's very hard for me because it's just this is a memory only that I remember of this last past life. I have all memories of my first past life, but this one I remember like asking people if they wanted healing. Like I was going around and like asking people if they wanted or needed healing, and I wouldn't charge anything or whichever. But I remember these people being near these trees, and I remember it being shady. It was the same trees that you would see like on the front range here, and like I just remember like people were being like very angry, like they're very evil to me, or they started to persecute me is what they started to do. Um, but later on, I ended up being stabbed like in the middle of the field. I gave into fear. I just remember like just being something happened where I just gave into complete fear and I allowed myself to be stabbed. I allowed myself to just be killed. It wasn't like my first past life where I was a warrior woman. It was like but I still was a healer. I was a healer, but I gave it a fear or something. So once I was stabbed, I remember I cried so much. I couldn't believe I lost my life. I wanted to live so bad. I wanted to be able to help people and heal people. I cried and cried and cried. Then I remember this UFO came next to me, and this gray alien ended up picking me up and putting me onto the ship. They did something to my spirit, or I'm guessing my soul, to hold me in this ship in this white room. I remember being put to rest, and then that was it. So I vividly remember dying in my past life. So this white room, it's just blankness. It's just nothing. It's like into the abyss. It's as though you just see white forever. Almost like nothing moves, nothing happens. You just rest. Like it's just rest. Like you're just completely to rest. I remember they woke me up a few times from this rest. I was transformed and sent out as a ladybug, fly, bee, or some kind of other insect or small animal. It could have also been a bird. I remember them sending me out like this twice. Then I was put back to rest. I remember then they woke me up again, and it seemed like I'd been sleeping now for years, I'd say probably hundreds of years. I remember being so happy and so excited because when they woke me up, they said I could help somebody. And I wanted to help people and heal people so badly, like just really bad. I remember seeing the same gray alien and some other aliens or whichever, but the white room was still all white, but suddenly something opened up on a screen where I could see these men. These men were in the desert. They were walking and they were about to die without water. They were just in the bare desert in Mexico and they were about to die. I remember they needed water. They were crying out for water. They were crying. I guess that they were calling maybe they were calling my name or something like that. I have no idea. I don't know, but they just sent me on this mission or something. So I was able to see them. I could hear them. I could speak to them. And it was as though I was speaking to them through a screen. Like, I remember just feeling such an energy of love. And I don't know how I was able to do like some kind of magic or something I knew how to do from my past life. but I was able to get them water. Like, I don't know how. I was able to do something like magically to get them water to drink like instantly. And I remember them being so happy and like they were thanking me. And yeah, it kind of makes me a little emotional, that memory. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, I remember just being so happy to help them. And I wanted them to just let me live. Sorry. I wanted them to just not have like taken my life so I could be able to help people, heal people. But I don't know what happened, but they just have they hunted me the same way in my last past life. It's the same this life, and it's hard. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on one moment. Okay, sorry about this. Had a risky moment. Okay, so then I after all that, that's what I was put back to rest, and I remember then I woke up on October 15th, 1990, to a life that has been just extremely purposeless and just a source of complete pain, never ending pain. I had hoped and prayed that I got a happy ending. I see most everyone did or has in this life. God does make mistakes. Whoever is the creator or in charge of putting me here, put me here knowing that there was nothing that I can fix. There is nothing that I can do to stop this evil. There is nothing that I can do to make the world better. Like I was asked before coming here, I guess that's what was I was asked. I actually was never supposed to actually have been reincarnated again. I had lived my past two lives already. I wasn't supposed to be reincarnated. And I believe that somebody went against the rule of reincarnation and actually reincarnated me. Um, I think I was able to help, a lot of people with Mermaid of Mesopotamia, but this evil will not and just will not allow it. I cannot like live my purpose. And I believe that now God has to just destroy the whole world because it's so evil. There's just too much evil. No light has been allowed to exist in this world, and like it's almost like it's incurable. Maybe next time God will do the right thing and not allow the planet to ever become like this again and leave his children to be abused, harmed, and killed off. I believe God has made many mistakes before, just like in the Old Testament, where he has had to kill the whole world, and only Noah and his family were only pure, and they were the only ones that were going to get to live. It's basically like that. This world is 99, I'm going to say 98, 99% evil. There's only about like 1% that are good. Uh, God messed up, many other times, like when he created dinosaurs and things got crazy, he had to end up having to bring asteroids and blow that shit up to start over. So basically, it's just to start over completely. He knows this. He allowed all this evil, all this destruction to go too far. Now he's allowed his children to be raped by these demon seeds, and now we have demons all over the place. The only thing that he can do basically is to destroy everything. It's unfortunate that God tried to bring me here to get me to help as an earth angel, but now I'm sure God realizes that this is something I cannot fix, and he cannot fix unless he destroys this whole earth to remove this evil. I no longer wish to reincarnate ever again after this horrible, awful life. I will never be reincarnated into this world again. And if I am reincarnated again, it will not, because I the thing about it is when you put somebody somewhere, like all that, this technology is all not for me. Like this is not. I'm from a past life. I'm not. This is why I do things naturally. This is also why they've been persecuting me. There's just yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna get back to that. But this is my basically my final kind of message anyways. But I have a couple more stuff to go through here about I have a lot more actually to go on here, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get it done today. But let's hope so. Of the things that are currently being done to me right now. But yeah, let's get back to this other memory. So I have another memory of like, amongst other memories, is of being on a beautiful beach by myself and playing with this clam. I don't know where this beach was or what it was, but it was like a beautiful ocean beach. It had kind of a mist around, and I remember like this mist from my first past life. We had this mist that was there for a while and stuff, and it was like just mist all everywhere and all over the air and stuff. And I would like to include more about my past life, but like Credo Mutwa, if you watch what he talks about reptilians, it just sums up like basically my whole past life. We were able to call an animal over like telepathically, psychically, and we didn't look anybody in the eye. I remember a lot about my tribe. I remember all that. Yeah. So we lived like in the desert. So I remember I would like zoom in on this clam, and it would be like I would become the clam, and there was like a pearl inside. It was like I was constantly shape shifting into the clam, and like vice versa. And I was like dancing. I remember like with the clam being able to like dance or do like some spinning. I don't know. I don't know if I was in Japan or where I was, but yeah, that was that memory. So realizing that I've been bred an abductee for so many years at the age of 28 is when I realized something came about now where the Most High God was really helping me see everything that had been done to me, all of these abductions, stuff done behind my back. I began to watch YouTube and watch tarot readings. I learned a lot about the witchcraft that my mother was doing to me and had been doing on me and how she'd been involved in this program. I began to question, I remember things, I began to remember things and question things. All my memories of these abductions came flooding back. I ended up speaking to my parents about the first abduction, and it was like they do remember, but they don't. They've been so secretive my whole life. And I really started to question if this was my family. And I started to remember that the things the brown reptilian told me that they were reptilians. He told me that my brother's music, I hated it because it was reptilian music, how they were slobs because they were reptilian, while they were hoarding and not neat and organized or whichever. Like, I mean, my shit's only fucked up because I have to live in a car. It's like, I don't space. It's like, oh boy, but it's like, I'm like super organized and I could not stand it. I couldn't stand the smells and like the disorderly. And yeah. So one day I took a photo of my mom, and there's a photo that was on my cell phone, and you could see actually like brown on my mother's neck. Like it was so weird. And it looked just like the brown reptilian skin. It looked just like that. It was like a brown, and I was like, wow. So something ended up, I guess, glitching. I realized that she was one of them. I began watching Marino Delfino. And I saw that these things use holographic crystal technology to hide their true appearance. And sometimes it breaks down and you will get photos or videos of what they truly look like. So this breakdown looks similar to what you would see on Marino Delfino. I began to really research, and I'd read some documents by Yves Logron, I think was the name. And this experience or these experiences were basically like very similar to mine. Other information I looked up on it was very similar. Later on at the age of 28, things got worse in the house with dark energy. The energy weapons that I know my mother was a part of using on me. Every day we had new illegal aliens next door using this technology on me, and I was done. I was sick of living with her. I was sick of living with illegals, seeing these illegals every single day. All you heard was Spanish. All you heard was crying babies. All you saw was litter, and all you saw was graffiti. And all that you had was illegal aliens coming up trying to ask to have sex or like touch or trying to flirt and talk to me and have sex with me, which is going on right now at this moment because now they brought all this to Colorado. So I ended up, I'm going to leave California before I either kill somebody or I kill myself or I get killed. Okay, I always hated the city, and my dream for years was to move to where there was green grass, trees, horses, cows, nature, all of that. I was so sick of the dirty ocean. I was tired of all this. This was what my family wanted. They wanted to live in the city. They didn't agree with my dream of that nature. They hate nature. These people hate it. So reptilians hate, a lot of them, the ones that are of this dark energy, hate nature. They don't like it. So I started to notice my mother was having this awful stench. Just so disgusting. It was making me so sick. And now I'm noticing this stench on multiple people. This stench will, when they pass by or if they have walked in an area in a grocery store, I could smell this stench. And it smells like a very rotten, pissy, like sour diaper or something like that. Like really pissy, like foul, rancid stench that is coming off of these people. She would take a shower and still smell. And my mother never ever smelled. She never had a smell. She always smelled really good. Actually, I thought with her like Bath and Body Works, never had any smell coming off of her. But now the stench was coming off of her. I began to start to say things that I think it hurt her feelings. I began to realize that this one really was a reptilian. It was like this stench comes out of the pores. No soaps or lotions will rid of it. I noticed this stench mostly coming off of women. I will mostly smell it on women is what I mostly smelled it. I do smell odors coming from men, but I mostly smell this specific odor from women. It smells horrible. If anybody else has smelled it, I'm pretty sure you might have. I believe that this is a breakdown also of like this something maybe with the 5D or the dimensions or something, but I can smell them. Um, and I think it's gonna get worse. I think it's gonna be the sulfur. It's gonna be smelling like sulfur soon. I think is what it's gonna come to. It's gonna get worse because they smell horrible. And this is one of the big reasons why I no longer won't be in this matrix with the smell. With their smells, they stink horribly. So I started to realize that I was being raped while I was asleep in the house too. And I started to realize that my mother was involved in hacking my phone and doing a lot of things to me covertly. I wanted to finally open up to somebody about the abuse and put her on blast for all she had done to me all my life. I ended up contacting this woman who was also a Libra that worked at her job and telling her who my mother was and how abusive she was. Because I guess my mother didn't like her, or I think her name was Angela. And I think my mother just didn't like her or whatever it may be. So I decided, you know what? I hated how my mother was a narcissist. I hated how she could just all my life. She was able to walk free like she wasn't a child abuser. She could go to work, portray that she was this like she was so fake. She would smile so much in front of people, be so fake, and then abuse us when doors were closed. But she was a behind closed doors real abuser, real fake in public, real wicked. Oh, and the stuff she would say behind people's backs. Everybody, my mother would talk behind everybody's back. Everybody. So I guess I did this out of anger. I ended up, kind of emailing this Angela, kind of randomly finding this email on the website, and I kind of did that. And next thing I know, my mother I think got off work early. Next thing I know, I have my grandma come over. She's got like her friend Renee, and the Renee I think is also training in some kind of psychology thing, like my grandmother or whatever it may be. So I guess that I really pissed them off because next thing I know, my mother quickly took my keys. She told me I could not drive, I could not leave. She then called the police and told them that I was unstable because I made that phone call. So the cops showed up. The cops told her that there was nothing they could do. They were like, there's nothing, we can't take her anywhere. Like, they couldn't just take me and lock me up based on the fact that they were saying I was unstable. This cop was Mexican, and so was the other cop. My grandmother and mother got furious when they said they could not take me. They got mad. They started to argue back and forth. They began to start to argue. So next thing I know, my mother pulls this officer over to the side, away from like me and my grandmother. We were kind of near the door. I was sitting on the porch like step, and next thing I know, the officer comes back and the officer changes up. And then he says he can now take me and lock me into a mental hospital for a mental evaluation. I couldn't even believe something so illegal was being done to me like this. So they ended up locking me in the holding cell in the jail. It wasn't Inglewood. I believe it was near Hyde Park, somewhere near Hyde Park or whatever. I don't know. But they ended up locking me in this holding cell, transferring me to a mental hospital for 2 weeks once again. My mother was a criminal with connections. Keisha Simone Stevens. She has also used Simone Stevens as an alias. That's an alias that she is also using. I ended up still living with the wicked bitch and tried slowly to get the courage to leave this abuser. I ended up trying to leave one day and driving all the way to San Bernardino, but then coming back because I was afraid of like the lack of money, the lack of food, of oh my God, I don't have enough. My mother's very selfish and thought I should be used as an ATM, and I should be like basically there for her and my sister's needs. Anytime I saved any money, she would begin to berate me about how she needed money or needed money for my sister, or like how dare I, basically like she would get real wicked, like oh my God, like she was counting my money all day, every single day, counting what I spent it on, really, really sick. And like one Christmas, she forced me and my brother to basically take all our little money we had and buy my sister a bunch of gifts. My mother like had this obsession with making sure my sister had all this designer stuff and like a better life than she gave us. Some kind of narcissistic type of game. My sister was spoiled rotten. And I guess that this is what Janaki Neptune did with Kari Neptune, my uncle, did the same thing. I guess that abused my mother and then had Kari was like the golden child. So, basically, my mother was very deceptive. Her and my sister were trying to take me to the beach one day just to ask me for money so my sister can get a car. I'm talking like a big amount of money. I could already tell they were being manipulative and trying to set this up because they know I love the beach and wanted to ask me at the beach. My mother would always hold all she had done over my head to like guilt me into whatever she wanted. She would blackmail me a lot. Like basically my mother feels like I owe her for taking care of me. I owe her for like all the food that she's brought me to eat and all that shit. So I told her I was not going to help Ajali get a designer car. I would only loan money for emergencies like food and other bills. My mother refused to help me or my brother get a car at all. And we had to do it like on our own. We had to we had to get driving lessons all. So I felt like, why should I help? So my mother threw a fit. She also went ahead and tried to ask like her friend Corbin, this man. My mother began to start to have sex with multiple different men. She said that I need to have sex before my pussy dries up. I'm 50 years old now and I need to continually have sex. And so my mother started seeing all these different men. And I don't know if that's partly where the smell coming off of her came as well. But she ended up getting really mad at the Corbin guy as well. Like, ooh, I'm not speaking to him anymore. Like, oh my God, like nobody helped me. And she was so mad. So she basically threw a fit. Next thing I know, like I said, no. And then all of a sudden they're both attacking me, cussing me out. My sister began to attack me verbally. Next thing I know, my back, the one area that they attacked me often was the one side of my back. I don't know how they were able to do it, but they were hitting the one side of my back to cause me severe pain. Severe pain. It's almost as if I had like a kidney stone, or I don't know if it's I think it's something electronic or some type of magic. She just has very dark energy. So this happens. So I have actually multiple medical bills due to my mother poisoning me all during the time that I was living with my mother. I was in the hospital once or twice a month. Sometimes it would be once every 2 months, but usually it would be like once a month or once every 3 months. My mother would be involved in getting me very ill to where I'd have to go to the ER. She was sickening me all through. I was a child. I'd be throwing up all the time. So when I get to the ER with severe back pain, I of course have to drive myself because my mother's like, I'm not driving you. You got it. But she was the one who was involved getting me sick. So I'd have to go to the ER in the first place and all that kind of stuff. So I was denied pain medicine once I got to the ER. I was in so much pain. And this nurse was pale skinned, just like my mother. She had nappy ass hair. I'm talking like a Brillo hat. This was like a flat top this bitch had. I don't know, but this bitch I could tell was from the Caribbean or Ethiopian like my mother or whatever they are. I have no idea. But she had like a huge syringe and took like a large amount of blood from me. I began to start to record what was being done to me in the hospital, and they ended up blurring the camera. They also took my video down on YouTube. This was criminal because the woman had her name tag hidden. She actually had her name tag hidden, like it was like flipped to the other side, like that. That's what they were doing. And this was a big, like the syringe was actually that thick, that big. So basically my mother now wanted me to move out because I refused to be my sister's ATM. I refused to be like the paid day advance or be like a loan. And they didn't want they didn't want to ask her father due to pride. Her father, Donald, yeah. Short Don, Don is his name, Donald or whatever. That's her father. She didn't want to ask her father, but instead wanted to ask me. When, first of all, that's not that, because what my mother did was she had a baby with Don, and now it's kind of like how is this any of my issue, any of my responsibility? This isn't. I have nothing to do with this shit. So basically, it was all due to pride. I already had a bunch of camping shit together. Like I just had this vision, like, oh my God, I'm gonna go out to nature. I'm gonna survive. I didn't want to live in the city, and it was a dream. That was their dream, like I said. And I went to sleep to Planet Fitness at night. I had to leave my rabbits behind, which broke my heart. I had to leave Bella behind. Later on, I know she ended up killing Bella. Bella died. So it's very sad. So leaving California at the age 20 at 8, I ended up finally getting ready to leave the state and leaving. This took a lot of courage. My mother held me back for years. So I was 28 years old. Both parents were involved in holding me back and completely wanted to hold me back. I didn't spoke to my dad in years, but I found a way to get in touch with him. I wanted mostly closure, I guess. I did one day confront him about molesting me, and my mother advised me that's what I should do too. He kind of denied it. He just kind of laughed it off. Like he had an apartment, and I lived with him for a short while. Because I told him I was homeless. He knew the situation. He invited me to stay, which was very, that was nice of him. I lived with him a short while before I got really sick of his alcoholism. My father would just drink beer when I grew up. He would drink beer, 6 pack. He had to have a 6 pack. That was like his lifeline. But now he was drinking hard liquor like brandy and rum or hard liquor and frequently. So I ended up leaving. I got tired of that. I got tired. He was waking me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, rambling on about my mother. Because every time I talk to my mother or father, they hate each other. So it's just every time I talk to either one of my parents, it's like, yeah, Randy, this, that, 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 your father, this, your mother, that, that, yeah. So that's what that is. So once I got to Barstow, which is, the way, that's like the way kind of out of California, whether you're going to fucking Vegas or you're going, just leaving the state. Got a hotel there. They tortured me at the hotel. It was an Indian hotel ran by Indians. It was a travel lodge. They had horrible, so broke down, so messed up, torturous. So I was never coming back. I was never turning around, and I was leaving a bunch of pain behind. I knew that. I said, you know what? I'm going to get across that California state line, whether I have to run, walk, crawl. I just prayed and prayed and prayed to God as I went through this journey. I went camping, and I found campgrounds like on the way to Wyoming. I passed through Utah. I spent a lot of time in Utah going north, a lot of time. My car, I would drive it like once, an hour or 2 hours a day, just to make sure that I wasn't like overrunning my car because my car was older. And I just prayed. I just said, God, please get me to a better place. And the minute I got to like Utah and stuff, things got better. I had watched a YouTube, this girl named Katie Carney, and that helped a lot with learning about like rest stops, truck stop parking, how to kind of live this lifestyle, like with the car, but I'm doing the car thing and the tent thing. So I had everything in my car, and I already knew how to set up a tent. Because one day I learned in the San Bernardino Mountains, like going out there and camping on my own. I kind of luckily they had reception because it took me I couldn't even figure out how to set the tent up. I had to like look something up. It took me a minute to finally figure out. Oh my God, I got to stick the poles in the ground, and like yeah, that was crazy. So I did learn through videos. I got a survival book too. I got all the gear I would think I would need for a survival situation, like a bug out bag. Basically, I put in my car. And my family never took us camping. My father was outdoorsy. He was into, so he would be more so probably do that. But we never went camp because my father was never there. My mother says she would never camp. She's got to have amenities, got to have a shower. She would only do it in like a RV, which really isn't camping. RV is not camping. So basically, I ended up kind of just doing this on my own. So I had about $1,000 that I was working with that I was lucky to save up. I had disability. I'd ended up getting some back pay, and I refused to give my mother. My mother felt like she got me that SSI back pay, like she spoke to the office or something like that, because it was something actually that was owed to me, and she feels like she's the one that was responsible for it. She's like, well, I got that for you. You need to give it to me. Like really, really, my mother is very sick, very sick. So the Most High got me all through Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, finally to Wyoming. I can't alone. I saw so many beautiful places. I finally saw like there were no illegals when I got to Utah. I saw a white man mowing the grass, and I was like, oh my God, that's something you never see. You never see white people cooking or mowing grass. You only see Hispanics, which actually Hispanics are the slaves of the Jews in California. That's all that they are. Solely, that's all they are. But when I was able to finally see the heartland of America, see what America's really run like, and see, I mean, it's amazing, peaceful, safe, quiet, calm. I noticed vehicles with California plates stalking me all the way up to Wyoming, all the way. It was also cars with different types of plates as well from different states. Specifically, one car from Michigan actually came and was stalking me in Idaho, came onto my campground and just stayed there, would not leave. Complete harassment. I honestly, I should have at that point had bear spray. I really should have had a weapon. But anyways, back to the story. So felt free. Didn't have to deal with my mother's constant drama, negativity, and other complaints, which ended up making me that way. Like it, just so negative most of my life. Her rules and her negative energy. She was even trying to tell me how to eat and how I could not eat a raw primal diet in her house. Like I couldn't eat raw meat. She hated milk too. Like I would buy raw milk, and I know she was messing with my raw milk every time. Every time, I know it. She loved, like, I guess, veganism or something. She loved illegal aliens. She loved abortion and all the things that I did not agree with. So did my father. And I was just done with this whole family. I knew they were completely unnatural and all we did was clash. I was sick of them trying to tell me how to live as an adult and dictate my life. Really tired of it. I noticed that I was no longer being abducted by aliens or having nightmares the minute I left that house. 28 years of nightmares with this witch. 28 years. I was finally safe away from my witch mother, these aliens, in this haunted house. The house was now at the point it was so roach infested as well. I had anxiety and constant stress. Every room, everywhere I went in the house, it's like, oh my God, a roach is going to be there. A roach going to pop out there. A roach going to pop out while I was done. The house we had just got, when we first moved to this house in Hyde Park, there were no roaches. The roaches came after, I have no idea what. I think it occurred after I lost weight. My mother got really jealous of me and of my looks and whatever the fuck. Some kind of weird shit. I was sick of also the way that my mother and sister would hoard trash. So my sister was also a hoarder, wanted to hoard all the shit in the garage. They had all this junk, mice dying in the toy boxes. And then they're like, well, there's, they just want to keep junk. And it's like, this is disgusting, filthy. I didn't have to live like that anymore. Even though I was in a small ass compact car with all my shit like shoved together, like it's like I don't have to live like this anymore. So, like I said, there was no more abductions. I was so much better off living in my car, cockroach free of my mother's filth, stench, and hoarded mess. That's probably a big reason why I kept like frequently getting these, like I was kept frequently getting something with kidney infections. I was getting all kind of different infections in this house, but it was also the reptilian contact as well, like Salmonella E. coli. I was like really sick. I was finally free and life was so much better. I was not being hit with frequencies either. Dad, I guess he lived in Utah for a while. So like I said, I was still kind of being hit with frequencies as I drove places, but it never was like it is now. Like they're all here now, like I said. My family was definitely stalking me. I had certain dream experiences where like my uncle was like, come home now, like really weird stuff. So they were sending me the energy, but later on, I was told my dad said that my mother could not find me at all when I was in Wyoming. Um, but that's like another future part of kind of the story. Sorry, we're a little off topic. So for an instance, I did have something happen in Utah where like I was sleeping and I could hear my father. I was sleeping in my car at a truck stop. I could hear my father talking to a man and saying how I had double D breasts and some other things about me. And I thought it was a dream, but I really, now looking back, I think that maybe, I don't know if my father was stalking me all the way to Utah or found, I don't know what this was, but I could hear the voices. And it was weird. It was freaking weird. So, I thought, like, I don't even know what this was, but I believe my family was stalking me. Like I said, but I noticed this happened once before when I was asleep. I thought I was having a dream. My uncle was speaking like Russian on a phone to somebody in this dream. And it was weird. Why is my uncle speaking Russian on the phone? And I could like hear this voice. So I think the Russian was here. It was tied to John. I think maybe somebody was in the room. I don't know. So I eventually got to Wyoming, and my real dream was to see Jenny Lake and the Grand Tetons. I don't know if it's Tetons. Sorry, I hope I'm saying that right. I always pronounce it wrong. I'm sorry. I was gang stalked all the way. I was gang stalked on the way up, just over and over from cars from California and Texas, specifically the same cars. I took one photos of a Mexican man in a cowboy hat, and he tried like hiding his hat, pulling it down. But yeah, it was crazy. So things were run so differently than in other states, like than in California. Like I said, that it wasn't illegals. Like this was actually like, I'm gonna say that it actually was all white where I moved in Wyoming. I guess it was like 100. It was like 100% white. There were a few Hispanics. There was one other black person, and that was like it. So I was like the only black person in town, pretty much. Like yeah. So it was much cheaper in these states. I was happy. I got space. It was peaceful, quiet. Like I said, I worked in Wyoming for 3 months and I worked at Subway. Things were cool. Things were good. I thought it was okay, but then I was okay safe until this woman, this red haired woman showed up, which is the same woman that had been stalking me, the same woman that had taken me in this, that had been in this abduction, that had tased me, that had been involved in stalking me. This woman has red hair. And she showed up to the shelter, California. So I get off from work one day. I show up to the shelter. There's a California plate in my parking spot. I usually park in because I was like in a safe house shelter for the stalking. It was that bad. And next thing I know, I'm just like, wow. So at the time, my mother was stealing my disability money too, my SSI money. She was my representative payee. I had to fight to get her removed as my representative payee. I'm very blessed because I got a lot of help from Wyoming, from just so much help. She loved having control of my SSI money. I had already gone no contact with her. We argued because I spoke to her about how she was like stealing my money. I ended up reporting it. And of course, nothing was done because my mother is a protected criminal. I did get a lot of help and support from the woman working there, and we worked to get my stuff changed and transferred to Wyoming and get her removed as a representative payee. She was still holding my birth certificate hostage in this box in her closet, along with my brothers, and still refusing to let me have it. She barely gave me my social security card to let me work. She was dead set on holding my birth certificate hostage. I had to go through so much drama and hell. I was happy as being no contact with all of them. I had a new life now. One day, the red-haired lady showed up to the shelter, and like I said, she was in my shop spot, and she had like a mad face on, like very angry type of face, and I didn't like this red-haired whore. I didn't like her. And I already had a feeling who she was. I knew that this was somebody sent to gang stalk me with the California plates. There was no reason why they would come all the way from California, all the way to Afton, Wyoming, and come and be in the same safe house shelter that I'm in. Yeah. This is how serious this stalking is. So this was um this was shortly before COVID was found out. This was February 2020 time. I ended up starting to get really sick once this woman got into the house. One side of my back started to hurt again, like it would frequently at my mother's house. I had so many medical bills already from all this pain that kept coming in my like or I think it's my left kidney, and they would always say nothing was wrong. They wouldn't see a stone. Whatever it was, it would hurt so bad I wouldn't even be able to eat. Well, now that pain was starting again. This bitch had California plates. She had a handicap sticker, and she was not even handicapped. I could tell she used to be a meth head for sure. She smoked like Marlboro Red. She did not eat any food, not one bite of food. Her story was apparently how her boyfriend was trying to drive her crazy and kill her and stalking her, and they were in Utah and some shit. But how the fuck did she end up all the way where I was is my question still. Definitely, I believe she was poisoning me because I began to start to get the back pain so bad I could not work anymore. This caused a lot of problems. It all started the minute she moved in. Doctors could not figure out what was wrong or help. I ended up deciding I need to leave Wyoming and get to Colorado to get medical marijuana for pain because they're not going to prescribe me pain meds for this pain because they don't see anything going on, supposedly. So I ended up having to leave. I was sick of her too. She was a loser and just sitting up in this place. Shortly after I got into the shelter, I got a job. I started working. I was working towards my future, trying to work to get myself a place to live, actually working towards something. I would get off working all day, and this lazy bitch would just be sitting on the couch, hogging up the TV. So I couldn't even watch TV when I got off work, just have my dinner and just watch TV. I couldn't watch TV at all. So that was the enemy working in Wyoming and living there. One day I just ended up packing my stuff and I just left. It was really that bad. I was sick of living with this woman. It didn't even make sense. During my time in Wyoming, there was a man that worked at the cell phone internet service, a store that looked just like John. I know it was him in one of his many forms that he would take on. He just would not stop stalking me. Okay, guys, so we're going to get to the next part, coming up with it right now. All right. Love you guys.